Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another Market Open. It is Thursday, May 9th, 8:47 a.m. I'm using a little bit of a different mic. Let me know if you guys hate the mic or you like the mic. I'm using this one. It's looks like I work in IT or something. I'm a customer support. But let me know if you hate it or you don't. I still have this one, but I don't have the stand, so it's always a little bit of an echo when I put it away. So I just decided to wear this mic. If you guys hate it, let me know, and I will change it back to the other one. But we are back. Okay, some people say we like it better. All right, cool. So if you guys really get annoyed by it, we'll just change the mic and we'll go. We are here today on a Market Open. It is Thursday, May 9th, 8:47 a.m. And it's a pretty exciting day given we had I'll take a McDouble with large fries and Coke. You guys hate it? Okay, put an L or W in the chat. And then if I see more L's, I'll change it. If I see W's, I'll keep it. And let's see. Damn, you guys actually don't like it. Okay, it hurts your ears. There is a little bit of static there. There's a little bit of static. Okay, so cool. We'll change it. I just thought it would be a little closer, but all right. So we're gonna change it right now. Okay, so now the audio will do. Okay, so this one's better. I'm still gonna leave it on though because it looks kind of cool, dude. It looks kind of cool keeping it on. All right, so this should be better. All right, so Robinhood, they had earnings yesterday. That's the big news of the morning. We got to talk about that. Numbers were a bit insane. My excitement last night was. It's kind of hard to keep the energy and keep the excitement because it's almost like the numbers as I'm seeing them, I'm like, I don't believe them. And so I'm like, I don't even know how to get excited about these numbers because like they're kind of unbelievable, right? And so I think the numbers were just absolutely incredible. We're going to talk about that for the first 10, 15 minutes, kind of break down those earnings, break down the thoughts I have on those earnings. We got price targets across the board today from the streets. The stock should be up 30%. The stock should be up 30%. It's not. That's okay. I have some reasons for why the stock is not up right now. I actually think it's kind of okay the stock's not up right now because it's fueling up a lot more momentum for the back half of the year as the company continues to execute. So we will discuss and keep going from there. And so we'll talk about that. Number two, Palantir got a bunch of price target upgrades yesterday as well. I thought that was very interesting because the stock's down 15% after earnings, but the analysts are not assuming that the stock should be down, or they're not analyzing that the stock should necessarily be headed down. They're actually saying the stock should be higher in terms of how they think of their one-year price targets. Even Rishi from RBC upgraded the stock from $5 to $9. And he still has a sell rating, but I'll show you guys the clip of him talking about why he doesn't like Palantir. But he had to admit, right, $5 wasn't the best. And then after that, we also got a ton of earnings yesterday. Airbnb down 9%. ARM didn't have the best earnings. Tesla right now at 175. It's up a little bit in the pre-market. We had a couple other companies do earnings. Robinhood right now 1910 in the pre-market, so it's up 7%. Nice to see that. We'll see if that sustains the momentum. But we got a bunch of companies we got to discuss and keep going from there. Also some macro news. The Bank of England, if I'm not wrong, let me make sure. Bank of England held rates steady, but they signaled they're likely to cut them in the coming months. So that'll be very interesting. If the Bank of England cuts, the United States probably, is on the path to cut if England feels like they're ready to have inflation come down. Obviously, England and the United States are different, but a little bit of a signal that maybe the United States is also going to have to think about a rate cut if inflation starts to go down a bit more than expected. And so we're going to see how this plays out. Also, Roblox had earnings. Roblox right now, are they down? I think Roblox is down. Roblox, I don't understand this stock. I understand the company, not the stock. Roblox, yeah, they're down 27%. What happened to Roblox? What is this? Whoa, we got to pull up that IR. All right, so we'll pull that up and talk about that as well. Dude, Kathy has, I think this is her like 8th largest position or something. It's a big position. She has a couple $100 million in this. It's not a joke for Kathy. Okay, well, we'll talk about Roblox in a bit. Let's do Robinhood first, and we'll talk about Roblox. My goodness, they gave a light forecast. Well, see, that's the thing. All these companies giving light forecasts, they're getting destroyed. And it seems like Roblox is another one that's getting that as well. Okay, cool. So let's do Robinhood. We got to do Robinhood. By the way, tonight at 6:30, I will have a special guest joining the stream. It's going to be a special Robinhood 30-minute breakdown. I'll do a breakdown of my thoughts for 15 minutes. In the last 15 minutes, we're going to have a special guest. He understands Robinhood very well. I'll just say that. He understands Robinhood very well. I think you guys will enjoy his thoughts on what's going on with Robinhood. Like he really, 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 really gets Robinhood. So at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, make sure you're here because this guy gets Robinhood a little bit better than me. So it's going to be fun to get his thoughts on what's going on with Robinhood. Okay, let's talk about this quarter. So give me 10 minutes. Let me get this quarter out of the way. First, Robinhood did something unique. They never did a clip like this where they had Vlad talk. They got this guy in a barbershop and shit. And like,
hi everyone, Vlad.
He's all like freshened up. So let's listen to him talk for about a minute. He's going to go through the results, kind of break down the big numbers, and then I'll talk about the insights I got from the call because this was one of the best earnings I've ever seen in my life. I mean, this was absolutely exceptional. So we'll talk about it after this.
Hi everyone, Vlad here, Chief Executive Officer and co-founder of Robinhood Markets. We just released our Q1 2024 earnings results, and we had a strong start to the year. Here's a few highlights. First, financials. In Q1, we had record total net revenues of $618 million, up 40% year over year. And we set a record for GAAP diluted earnings per share with 18 cents. Second, we're driving a lot of growth. We're gaining market share in equity and options trading, and we're increasing wallet share with customers. Here's a few highlights. Net deposits. They were a record at over $11 billion, including net positive transfers from every incumbent brokerage firm.
Bro, 11 billion. 11 billion. We'll talk more about that, but that is insanity.
Gold subscribers grew the fastest we've seen in 3 years to a record 1.7 million. And as of last week, customers increased their retirement assets under custody to over $7 billion, more than quadruple what they were to start the year. And third, we're continuing to innovate for our customers. In March, we held our first keynote, which received over 100,000 views. During the event, we announced several different ways we're delivering value to our Gold customers, including the Robinhood Gold Card. And over 1 million customers have signed up so far. There's a lot more to share with you, so you can check out our press.
So, I mean, dude, the numbers were absolutely insane. Top level highlights, 11.2 billion in deposits. Again, I gave my super bull case on Twitter a couple weeks ago, and I was like, well, I think if we're lucky, they're going to do 580 million. They did 618 million in revenue. This is a company growing 40% year over year. I mean, it is just exceptional, some of these numbers they had. So let me go through a couple of them. First of all, 618 million in revenue, 11.2 billion in deposits, 157 million in GAAP profits. Dude, they did 18 cents a share. Like, it's just insane. And then on the Gold subscribers, they did 260,000 new Gold subs, which is incredible. They went from 1.42 million to 1.7. I thought they would top out at 1.6. 7% of every customer on 7% of all the customers on Robinhood are now Gold subscribers. So 1.7 million in general are on Gold, which is incredible. The Gold business is getting close to $100 million annual recurring revenue just off subscriptions, which is insane. Now, the big thing for me, and the reason I think the street is not pumping it as much as I think they probably should, is because the street right now is in a very peculiar situation where they're trying to figure out, is inflation coming down? Are Q1 earnings across the board legit? And are we getting a rate cut? All those questions are still up in the air. So when a company like Robinhood not only blows it out of the park, but like they like absolutely just smash and crush earnings, undeniable types of numbers, you would expect the street to reward that. But given the variables I mentioned, it's kind of hard for the street to be like, well, even though your numbers are great, we're going to reward that because what if your numbers suck in Q2? And I think that's what the street's struggling right now. That's my kind of high level thesis on why the stock's not up 20%, because it should be up 20%, is that the street's trying to think, well, we don't know if you guys can do this again, and this is a one-off, so we're not really going to be that excited. Why would we buy the stock and get all excited? And then Q2, these numbers are, abysmal in the context of how they were in Q1. However, I think what they said on the call is that they're basically getting ready to get another solid Q2. So a couple stats. Robinhood says we added 140,000 new Gold members in April alone, which is half of the new Gold members we got in all of Q1 2024. So in Q1 2024, last 90 days, January to March, they got 260. Last month, they got 140. They got half of what they got in Q1 in 1 month, which means if this trend at least continues or is like 10 or 15% of what the trend has been in the first month, they should be able to beat those Gold numbers. Another big thing right here. So they are up 243% year over year in terms of the only metric that matters for deposits. This chart right here is just insane. 11.2 billion last time in Q1 2023, they did 4.4 billion. Now, the big thing about deposits is going into Q2, They've said they've already done $5 billion in deposits in April, which is the first month of Q2. That is 45% of the overall deposits they did in Q1. So you look at Q1 and you're like, all right, this chart looks insane. 11 billion. Is it sustainable? And then the CFO is like, well, we already did half of what we did in Q1 in the first month of Q2, which means if they just level it out over the next 2 months, they should be able to replicate this quarter. I don't know if they can beat this quarter. I think that would be a little tough to beat 11.2 billion, but if they even get to 9 billion, 10 billion, like that still is insane because for the past year, they've barely been doing 5 billion per quarter. Right now, they just did 5 billion in a month in regards to April. It was the highest net deposit month they've ever had in history. So, I mean, these numbers are undeniable to a different level. Look at crypto right here. We'll talk more about crypto in a bit. Also, they talked about the Wells notice. Basically, they were like, look, this shit doesn't really matter. We're just going to fight the SEC. And the reason they're going to fight the SEC tooth and nail is because they 3x'd their crypto revenue in 1 month. 126 million from 43 million. All of that was crypto. That is the reason Dan Gallagher, the chief legal officer of Robinhood, is about to get his money's worth and prove that he's worth every cent and fight the SEC. Now, one thing when people see this chart is like, and I have another stat on crypto that's going to blow your mind away if you haven't seen it already on my Twitter. One stat on crypto is people are like, well, it's cyclical. If Bitcoin falls to 30K next quarter, then they're not going to be able to do this revenue. 100% agreed. And that is a risk. If Bitcoin does fall aggressively, then a lot of companies are not going to benefit, Robinhood being one of those. But I think what people miss behind this is that when Bitcoin runs, you have to capitalize on the opportunity. And this has been a year for Bitcoin to obviously run with the addition of the ETFs. So Robinhood is basically capitalized. They're one of the 3 companies in the United States that is truly capitalized on this run from a brokerage perspective in a way that other companies haven't. And I think we have to give them credit there because the conventional argument is if crypto goes up, Robinhood gets more revenue. If it goes down, Robinhood loses revenue. That's correct. But it didn't just get more revenue. It increased by 300%. What that means is that Robinhood is becoming the go-to platform to buy and sell crypto for retail. How do I know this? Well, this is the stat that I think is the stat everyone needs to pay attention to. So this is the stat I don't think a lot of people are ready for. When I looked at these numbers, it absolutely, I couldn't believe these numbers. So in order to get that 126 million of revenue, Robinhood had to do 36 billion in crypto notional trading volumes. Coinbase, our good friend over there with Brian Armstrong, really respect his company. It's up 7x since the SEC sued them back in February 2023. They did 56 billion of crypto notional trading volumes for consumers. They did 250 for institutionals. That was the BlackRocks, the Fidelities of the world buying Bitcoin through their institutional product. But for consumers, people like you and me, they did 56 billion of volumes. Robinhood did 64% of Coinbase's consumer crypto trading volumes in the last quarter. I mean, you would not think that Robinhood is stealing away the retail sort of momentum. And I said this, I talked about this 2 weeks ago. I was like, crypto, when I saw Coinbase's earnings, I was like, wow, they had a great earnings, but a lot of this is institutional. It's not really retail. So maybe the bull run hasn't happened for crypto and retail is just not back. One thing I put at the end of that post is like, or maybe some of that went to Robinhood. And I explicitly said, I don't think that happened. I was like, I don't think people really left Coinbase just for Robinhood. I was wrong. Apparently they did. And I think it has to be because of the fees. The fees are getting ridiculous on Coinbase. And I think people wanted something cheaper. Now, what's an even crazier stat that I don't think people are ready for is that in the month of March, when Bitcoin ran to 74,000, Robinhood did 23 billion in crypto notional trading volumes, which means Robinhood did 41% of Coinbase's entire Q1 trading volumes in 1 month. That right there is signifying to me this is a company that has fundamentally changed in terms of the way people think of them as a platform to be able to use. It also shows the flywheel is working. If they get you on retirement, or get you on gold, or they get you on Cash Sweep, or any of their hosted products, maybe you buy a little bit of crypto on their platform as well. And that compounds so aggressively that it leads to this ridiculous chart of $23 billion of crypto trading volumes happening in 1 quarter or 1 month, which is 41% of Coinbase's entire quarter. So that was big. That was very, very big. We are going to get the April metrics soon. I think in next week, May 15th, we should get the April metrics. And those, we already know a little bit about those metrics, but those are probably going to signal strong growth as well. I think the highest risk to Robinhood now is that if the market tanks, obviously Robinhood's going to be in a tough position. And if crypto tanks, they're going to be in a tough position. But outside of that, which, by the way, if the market tanks and crypto tanks, everyone's in a tough position, right? If NVIDIA shits the bed, all of our stocks shit the bed. Like, there's no avoiding that. So to me, it's like, yeah, it's a risk, but it's one of those risks that's kind of market wide. Robinhood's severely affected by it because trading volumes will go down. But it's not like, Palantir is going to be all peachy and dandy at $25 if Nvidia goes to like 600 on a crash. Like Palantir is probably going to 17, right? So I think a lot of this market has to be held up this year. And if it does hold up, as long as Robinhood can execute, then I think they're going to be good to go. We got upgrades across the board. JMP raised them to $30 from 28, outperformed. Bernstein still has a price target of 30. Mizuho raised them from 23 to 21. KBW 2150 from 20. Piper Sandler 18 from 17. Barclays 18 from 16. Bank of America 14 from 13, and JP Morgan 16 from 12. So we've got price targets across the board. Pretty much every bank realized, all right, these guys deserve to be re-rated. And I believe the real run on Robinhood right now, we're not seeing a crazy run. I explained, I think the market's just not in the position to be able to give that run. $19.04. I honestly, guys, I expect it to not really do well today. Like maybe we hold 19, maybe we hold 18.50. I don't expect this thing to go to 20. If it does, I'll be very happy, but I don't expect that to happen. I mean, if anything, I expect it to be relatively flat because I just don't think the market has the mood yet to do what it needs to do in regards to rewarding these companies. And that's okay. That'll catch up to it. But obviously the street has re-rated the company. They've decided the company is worth more than what they've showed us in the past quarters. And the types of metrics we got, it's just mind-blowing in all different levels. And I have even more stuff I can talk about right now, but those are the high-level thoughts on what I expected on Robinhood Q1 earnings. And again, my expectations were they would do well, but they would not do this well. And if they're doing this well, even if they do worse next quarter, it's going to the bar is still going to be higher because they're just doing worse from an already high bar, which means I think there's a lot of room to grow for this company. And we will see. So Tark says, what makes the mood change? Inflation needs to come down. Inflation comes down, everything changes, dude. We get a CPI. I think we have CPI on the 12th next week on Tuesday. I'm going to make sure I don't sleep through that one because honestly, I think that's the most important CPI. The last one was the most important because the last one came in hotter. This one is the most important. So the next CPI we get on the 12th, I believe, it needs to come in below 3.5, dude. Even if it comes in at 3.4, I think the market will be okay. But if it comes in at 3.6 or 3.7, that's getting back to 4%. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to deal with it. So we'll see how that plays out. But if that starts to come down, I think the market will start to accept more momentum in a lot of these companies that deserve the momentum. And here's the thing. Robinhood needed these numbers to not tank. If they had numbers that weren't as good as these numbers, they probably would have tanked because the market's being very ruthless right now. The fact that we're even green, I think, is the market saying, okay, your numbers were so good. We'll give you some momentum here. And to compare Shopify, they beat on GMV, revenue, EPS, tanked 20%. And I know Shopify is a totally different business. I get it. But like still, dude, you beat across the board and the market's like, yeah, no, sorry, not good enough. So Robinhood really had to put up numbers here. Cool. Okay, so that was my Robinhood answers. Let me know, or my analysis. Let me know if you guys have any questions in the chat. But that's what I'm thinking about when it comes to Robinhood. Cool. Okay, let's move to Palantir. Let's talk about Palantir. So in terms of Palantir, something really interesting happened last night. Peter Thiel was giving a talk at, I think he was at Oxford, if I'm not wrong. And he had to deal with something. I'm going to play this clip as it's interesting what's happening in the world right now. So here's Peter Thiel trying to give a talk at an event. And here's what ends up happening.
Since October 7th, 14,000 children in Palestine have been murdered, and Palantir is complicit in that. Your actions are complicit in the genocide of thousands of people. Rather than platforming people like you, this university should be calling on the government to an immediate two-way embargo with Israel. And yet your technology is ensuring that hospitals are being bombed. You are complicit in genocide, and this university is platforming people who are complicit in genocide. And everybody here should be aware of that. Everybody here should be standing up and should be doing something about that. You are complicit in genocide. Your actions are, and this university is. Free Palestine!
At the end, Thiel is like, I don't even want to dignify you with a response, but I think he starts to try to respond to her, but then the video gets cut off. Tell me why her voice sounds like a Karen, bro. Tell me why, like, just like, yeah, I'm beneficial. You got it right in the chat. We both thought the same thing. What a Karen. Dude, tell me her voice does not sound like a Karen. She's like, just like, you would just like if she worked at Starbucks or something and like, and she said, what's your name? And you're like, oh, like Amit. And she's like, how do you spell Amit? And I'd be like, yo, relax, homie. It's like AMIT. It's not that fucking hard. So I think that, you know, after listening to Karp's talk at this event, Karp made a pretty profound statement. And I have a clip of Karp that I want to play as well from Fox Business. The statement he made was the people that are protesting for peace are the biggest advocates for war. And this is an incredibly intellectual argument that can go over a lot of people's heads. But when you really break it down, and this is why I just love when he does this analysis, because it is so thinking outside of the box in terms of how to make these arguments. And as a CEO of a company like Palantir, to justify what they are doing, you have to be able to make these arguments and be able to sell them in a convincing way. What does he mean by that? The people that are protesting for peace are the biggest people that are campaigning for war. His argument is that if we don't defend ourselves and spend money in defense technology and be able to have the resources to eradicate the type of ideologies that lead to things like October 7th, then that will only lead to more war. So his argument here is kind of like, you're begging to be killed if you don't have a gun, right? To make a sort of Second Amendment type of metaphor. There's a level of self-protection and self-defense that is rooted ideologically from the way we think about the concept of war. The ethics of war are a very interesting concept. I mean, one could argue there are no ethics in war. And if you try to have ethics in war, one of the biggest things is to minimize the most amount of casualties that you have when a war goes down. A lot of the people protesting, specifically the people that are my age or a little bit younger on these college campuses that are protesting, I don't think they understand what's going on in the context of war. And it's because a lot of them never had the privilege or have had the privilege of never having to go to war. They don't understand the brutality of it. They don't understand the violence of it. And it just, you know, you start to wonder, wait a second, why don't you guys actually live under Hamas for a bit and see how it feels? Why don't you guys go do your protests under the sort of Hamas regime and see what they think? And I think Thiel and Karp are just like, our technology is protecting the values. We don't have to agree with everything the Israeli government does, but they're protecting the fundamental values that if those values are tarnished, and this is what Karp talked about in that talk at the keynote he gave with Eric Schmidt a couple days ago, then the entire concept of democracy and these Western values fall apart. And when they fall apart, we don't have a society. We don't have an ideology that allows us to maintain any types of freedoms or prosperities, because they all go down to what he calls the woke, thin, pagan religion of these college kids that think they know what's the best thing to happen in the world without looking at the reality of what's going on. As someone says here in the chat, if you want peace, prepare for war. That's, dude, the only reason, especially in America, we have these freedoms is because we've had wars to get these freedoms in the first place. And as I get older, I'm going to be turning 27 in a few months. It's like, you start to have just a lot more humility for how this shit goes down, what it means. I was having a conversation with Arnie at a sushi spot last night, and he was saying, you know, one of the problems in Italy is that people are afraid to fail. So people don't start things. And so in America, you know, you start an idea, you start a startup, it fails, whatever, you move on. There's a culture of innovation in America that allows people to start big things. If they fail, we reward you for the attempt and the pursuit of trying, because we believe in the level of innovation that can come from America. That's why every big tech company is in America. That's also Karp's point. Whereas in the European countries, you're so afraid to even try. There's a unique, distinct cultural value that sustains American democracy and sustains those Western values. And that is what I think a lot of these college kids don't understand, and they are misreading it. And part of sustaining those values is making sure that we prepare for war in order to even have peace. Here's Karp on Fox Business yesterday, kind of talking about what the college protesters are doing. And I mean, he's pretty much talking exactly to the person who interrupted Peter Thiel at this event yesterday.
Progressive, meaning I want fairness, I want people to live better, I especially want low.
Okay, the audio on this is actually kind of sucks. I have a better clip on Twitter that someone posted the exact same thing. Let me see. Yes, here we go. Let me get the better clip because there's a little bit better audio. Here we go. Here's way better audio. Here we go.
Meaning I want fairness, I want people to live better, I especially want lower class people and people who are disadvantaged have a better life. This new religion, which is not, has nothing to do with Judaism.
Sorry, guys, audio isn't the best, but this is all we have.
Christianity or Islam. It has nothing to do actually with, it's a full-on regression from below our Constitution, from below the Western tradition, from below the classics, below the three long-standing Greek religions, into something pagan, discriminatory, irrational, not bound by any of the norms that we have, not interested in fairness, just they literally are excluding and gleefully exclude. They're dedicating themselves to justice and anti-discrimination.
Okay, actually, I found a better clip. This is exactly him saying the same thing, but it's someone got a clip from the event himself talking about what I just said about peace and war. So here we go. Here's the clip.
And I feel horrible for the innocent people in Gaza that are dying. But we shouldn't forget that we, the United States, killed a lot of innocent people in Mosul and Raqqa. That we, the United States, killed 12,000 innocent French civilians. And here we are on the 80th anniversary of Normandy, on the prep fires for Normandy. We destroyed 69 Japanese cities, not including Hiroshima and Nagasaki. We slaughtered people in massive numbers, innocent people who had nothing to do with their government, men, women, and children. War is a terrible thing. But if it's going to have meaning, if it's going to have any sense of morality, it has to be a political purpose, and it must be achieved rapidly with the least cost, and that you do by speed.
And one of the things I find personally very frustrating, the peace activists are actually the pro-war activists, and we're the peace activists. So you don't want war, you better be strong. You have to scare your adversary, and you have to be willing to have.
Why do you say the peace activists are war activists?
Because if you're the useful idiot of Iran and China begging to, literally there are people on college campuses saying, be doing a pro-North Korea mantra. If you think that creates peace, you are literally, why would Hamas ever give up? They have you marching for them. They're never going to give up. You are an infection inside of our society, and they are the reason they're not going to give up. If you want to stop these people, you have to be willing to be fierce.
They're out there supporting a terrorist organization whose very written charter calls for the death of all Jews, not just in Israel, worldwide. I mean, come on now. If you're going to support that, you're on the wrong side here.
You can critique the Israeli government. I think there's a legitimate criticism for the Israeli government. There's a legitimate criticism of how the war is going down. But I think philosophically, Karp's argument is that if we do not prepare for war, which is all the protesters are like, we can't have a war, the lack of preparation for the war is what ends up creating no peace and actually creates more war. So, I mean, there's a lot of different ideological ways to think of it. But honestly, the way I think it comes down to is some of these kids in these universities have not really gotten to the point where they're honestly mature enough to really think about this using their full brain. And I resonate with this because I know I'm only 26 and I'm not the most mature guy on the planet. But when I was their age as well, going to 21, 22, which is still 4 years of difference, I also kind of felt a little bit of just like rebel against the system. Like everything sucks. Like the United States is the worst thing in the world. It's white supremacy. It's like, well, wait a second, dude. Like there's a lot more nuance to this. You cannot just be that ideological in terms of what's going on there. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about it from there. Kris, Kris, I'm going to have you on at like 9:40. I'll get you on right after the bell. Okay. So let's get to the market open and then like 9:35ish. Let's just get through a couple of the other stories. And Kris, I'm sending you the link right now on Twitter, and try to hop on at 9:35 if you can. And then we'll have Kris join us. We'll also get some of Kris' thoughts on the macro. I was talking to Kris last night on the phone. He has some interesting thoughts about what's going on in regards to the macro economy. Also his thoughts on Celsius. I would love to know what he was thinking about that because Celsius had a very interesting earnings. Kris, I just sent you a link. So 9:35, hop on and we'll get you on. Okay. So that's what we got in the world for Palantir. Well, last thing I want to say outside of all the stuff around what's going on with Peter Thiel and the protests is that price targets are up. So let me show you this as well. We have a $25 price target upgrade from Tyler Radke. If you guys don't remember Tyler Radke, and then I'll show you guys the Rishi clip. Tyler Radke, this dude hated Palantir, dude. When we were doing the SPACs, I remember watching this guy in 2021 CNBC, and he was basically like, Tyler Radke sucks. I mean, and he was like, Palantir sucks. And then I was like, oh, Tyler Radke sucks. But he just hated Palantir, right? This guy somehow upgraded us to $25 after those earnings. You would think after we dropped 15%, we would get downgrades. Bank of America, $28 buy. Wedbush, $35 buy. Rishi even upgraded from $5 to $9, and then Tyler Radke Palantir to 25. So from my perspective, these guys raising the price target seems to mean that they saw an exceptional quarter. This is why when Karp says we crushed it, I think he's right. They actually did crush it. It's just the stock got ahead of itself. And so it took a break. That's why I am aggressively buying this dip. I bought 50 shares over the past couple of days. The goal is to buy another 100 shares over the next 2 days. I think that at 21, below 22, it's exciting. Also, by the way, something that's very interesting, Palantir bought $9 million of their own stock. Now, the $9 million of their own stock that they bought, the average price on that stock, $24.44. Very interesting. I know it's only $9 million, but why are they buying their stock at $24? Is it because they believe, hey, at 24, we're undervalued? Because that's usually kind of how buyback assumptions work. Now, you could be wrong on that. Meta bought back their stock at like 250 and they fell to 88, right? So they were wrong on the undervaluation at the time. But maybe Palantir's like, well, 24, given the growth that we're going to see, people don't understand $24 is a steal. So I want to look into that, but I think that is really interesting to think about when it comes to how we conceptualize what's going on with Palantir and how they're doing buybacks. Here's Rishi. Let's get his take as well. We've been pretty bullish on the earnings. Let's get someone who's bearish on the earnings. I want to get his thoughts and perspectives, and then we'll keep going from there. Again, I don't think his analysis is the best, but it's always good to get some bearish perspective on what happened in the quarter. Here's Rishi.
RBC Capital Markets. Rishi, it is always great to have you on the show. So let's walk through this, Rishi. So Palantir reports they beat sales estimates, it looks like, for Q1, Rishi. They raised their forecast for annual revenue. Initial pop, but now we're down here about 9% in the after hours. What is going on here, Rishi? Give me your take.
Yeah, absolutely. And Josh, thanks so much for having me. Always a pleasure to speak to you. I would say it's a combination of a couple of things, right? It's high expectations because this has become a hyped, or in my opinion, overhyped generative AI, beneficiary company. And we can get into that in a second. You saw the stock was up 8% on the day today heading into earnings. And then, they put up results that are beaten raised, but I think that was priced into the stock. And then at the same time, you see U.S. commercial decelerating pretty big. Last quarter, they put up 70% U.S. commercial growth.
So this part really, really made me upset because it's like, dude, they guided for this. It's not like they said, oh, we're going to keep growing 70%. First of all, most companies don't just keep growing at 70% unless you're NVIDIA, right? So they said, hey, we're going to go to 40%. They actually raised guidance from 40 to 45. He doesn't mention that. But it was kind of disingenuous, dude, because it's like, we knew that was going to happen. So why are you acting like that's such a big deal?
But now they're growing U.S. commercial 40%. I think it's a combination of those as well as some other things that's leading the stock down about 9% in the aftermarket.
Well, Rishi, Julie here. Why is that commercial growth slowing? Is it just a matter of that they couldn't keep up that same pace? Or is there some issue with execution? Or is it end market demand? What's going on?
Yeah, I think it's a couple things, right? Number one is the compare itself just gets a little tougher. I think that 70% commercial number that they posted last quarter was maybe boosted by just a very, very easy compare and some one-time impacts. And so that's piece number one. I think piece number two, and we'll see how this plays out over the coming quarters, but when we talk to actual technologists who are deep into AI, deep into ML, who know more about this topic than I could ever hope to over my life, they are expressing skepticism around Palantir and especially around AIP and whether they are what they say they are from an AI perspective. And maybe there's a little bit of that showing up in the U.S. commercial numbers and why we're seeing that slowdown as well.
What about, Rishi, this company's boot camps where they get customers, kind of up and running fast with their AI software? Smart strategy, in your opinion?
I think it is, but look, I would again put a little bit of skepticism around that bootcamp strategy. I think number one, remember Palantir is very heavy customized software, right? I estimated more than 30% of their business is actually professional services and outsourced data science rather than actual true software. So I don't know that it's even the right fit for something like a bootcamp. And even then, if we really think about bootcamp customers, these are people who say, okay, come and figure out some of my problems and give me a use case. But it doesn't go from there to a customer becoming a multi-million-dollar Palantir customer overnight, which is how they make it sound on earnings calls. But in reality, a lot of times, those bootcamp customers might do multiple boot camps, or they might turn into a pilot customer over time. It's not nearly the game changer to go to market that I think they claim it to be.
So I think he's wrong on that. I think it is a game changer because other companies are replicating their bootcamp strategy. Number two, yes, if clients have to do multiple bootcamps, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. That just gives them a better chance to buy your product. Like sales is hard. If you need to get them to do multiple bootcamps and they do multiple bootcamps and then they end up buying. I think the key thing here that Rishi is missing, and again, he is thinking of it from an analytical perspective, not a creative perspective. And one of the things about Palantir is that they're deeply analytical and technical, but there's a level of art to the company. This is one of the reasons, Vlad, I mentioned the other day, I watched him in an older interview and he said, we have artists that work at Robinhood. You have to have art and creativity in addition to try to scale a tech company. And when I think of Palantir and these boot camps, it's pure art, in my opinion, from a business perspective. I mean, no one thought of this go-to-market strategy, and Rishi is not looking at the art of that. He's not looking at the product focus. I mean, literally at this expo, dude, there was like 70 companies. Palantir had the biggest booth, and they had the only booth where you can go into the booth, put on a headset. You can go into the booth. You can literally say, hey, drone, go higher into a microphone. And the AIP connects with the LLMs. And there's like this mock drone and it goes higher. Like none of the other booths, when I mean those booths literally had a PowerPoint, I mean like literally you would go to the booth and there would be like two people presenting off like a pamphlet or something. And it was a night and day. So Palantir, I think, absolutely crushed this expo, but they brought the booth camp product focused mentality to the expo itself. And I think Rishi doesn't understand that. I really think he's either misguided on this or he just doesn't get that matters at the end of the day to make this thing continue to work. So to me, that's really important. One other thing I didn't get to talk about, and then I'll end the Palantir talk here, is yesterday, I didn't get to mention this because we ended, honestly, I think I forgot at the end of the stream to mention this, but they did reveal a new product, and it's like low-key a consumer product, not like a massive consumer product, but anyone can sign up for this. So Palantir released a way to instantly sign up and get access to modules of Palantir AIP. CodeStrap talked about this if you saw his video as well. You'll get $500 free of compute to use when you sign up. And the link is right here. I can put it in the chat if anyone wants to check it out. But this is super important. This is what, as you can see right here, if you see the tab, sign up for AIP, activate full spectrum and AI in days and drive enterprise operations. It's available for the US and the UK. And you literally sign up, you put in your credit card, you get $500 of usage, and then you can start using it. This is scaling in cohorts. When we talked to Sham about it at the expo, he said, look, it's going to take some time to get this to roll out. But the idea is we want certain cohorts to start using it. We want to see how they're engaging with it. And then over time, we want thousands or hundreds of thousands of developers to be able to have access to all of our products and tools immediately. And then eventually that can scale to like thousands of small businesses. Just sign up, immediately download it, put in their credit card, and they pay as they use it, which is a big deal. Which is a big deal. The link right here is in the chat. And so I think that was another thing that was important. That thing, they had 400 QR codes as soon as Sham talked at the event that could get signed up. And I think those 400 QR codes got filled in like 20 minutes. So a lot of people signed up for it. And I think that's another way they're trying to go further down market and attack small business. Cool. So that's what we got going on in the world of Palantir. Again, I think the dip is great because it gives us an opportunity to buy. All the analysts, they're upgrading even though the stock is going down, which hasn't really happened before. And I think that's the exciting thing that we're seeing when it comes to Palantir. Let's get back into the markets and see what we've got going on. We've got Robinhood at $19.20. Nice little 7% gain. I think Robinhood right now should be $23 easily. I mean, I really think the market cap at that point would be 22 billion. Enterprise value would be about 17 billion. And they're growing 40% year over year. I mean, now maybe that 40% ends up being 35% or 32% over the next quarter is because the crypto revenues aren't that substantial. But imagine if the crypto revenues are that substantial. Imagine if crypto, they did 126 million. Imagine they only do like 80 million, which is, it's 40 million down, but that's still up like 200% year over year. So I think the numbers were so good for Robinhood that if they have lower numbers in Q2, they will still be higher than what most people expected, which is what's going to allow their valuation to continue to get the multiple they don't really have the big multiple, right? But it will justify more of a premium eventually being attached to them in regards to the market. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Robinhood as the bell opens, and we'll keep going from there and see how that plays out. Besides Robinhood, we had some earnings today. So CleanSpark had earnings. They're up 2%. We had Tesla in the chat say what the CleanSpark earnings were. Let me actually pull up this website as well to get the CleanSpark earnings. So today in the morning, we had CleanSpark. Today's Thursday, May 9th. Okay. Oh, wow. They don't have CleanSpark here. Okay. So, no, they do. Wait, wow. No, they messed it up. They said after close. Okay. So they beat on. No. This is the wrong one. This is wrong. Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one. They did beat across the board, which is why the stock is up. But again, Bitcoin is just not as high as it needs to be. That's why CleanSpark's not doing the best. So here's their actual numbers. CleanSpark first quarter revenue was 73 Q1 2024. Wait, someone in the chat, why did you put the CleanSpark numbers if I'm on their website? The only thing I'm seeing is February 8th, 2024. I think you might have put the wrong numbers, Tesla. Unless I'm looking at it wrong. Yeah, look at this right here. CleanSpark, I'm only seeing February 8th, 2024. I don't see the new numbers. And it also says they report after the bell. So I don't think they report. You might have put the numbers from last year or from last quarter, to be honest. So yeah, it's CleanSpark we have after the bell. So CleanSpark we have after the bell. We'll see what happens there. Or they got leaked. Go to the financials for Q1. That's interesting. Okay, hold on. Financials, quarterly results. Yeah, but Q1 was February. They might say it's like Q2. You know, some companies, they do the fiscal year, so Q1 is not actually Q1. So yeah, you might have that was actually February 8th. Unless CleanSpark just tweeted the results. What? Okay, so never mind. It's actually it's what? That's so weird. Why are they? Okay, let me pull them up. Regardless, they're up, which is a good thing. And that's at least seeing some momentum here. Okay, yeah, here we go. Now, so it's actually Q2. I hate when companies do the fiscal year thing, but here's their thing. So revenue, 111 million. Net income, 127 million. Oh, wow, their net income is larger than the revenue. That has to be some of the FASB rules. Adjusted EBITDA, 181 million. Total assets, 1.4 billion. Revenue grew 163% year over year. That's not bad. That's not bad. It shows after hours as well. Yeah, I don't know why it shows after hours. That's weird because they did it pre-market. CEO says, we achieved remarkable milestones that past quarter, ultimately becoming what we believe to be the top operator at scale in the industry as we increased our operational capacity by 60%, extended our footprint with facilities in Mississippi and Georgia, and bolstered our total capacity to 17 exahats per second. These efforts have been driven by significant rise in our revenue as well. I mean, look, those are good numbers, dude. Those are not bad numbers when it comes to CleanSpark. So we're seeing some good momentum there in the context of CleanSpark. I don't have CleanSpark anymore, guys. For those that are asking, I sold my options at like 1630. So I don't have any more CleanSpark, but I do think if Bitcoin runs, it's probably the best, or it's one of the best bets you could have as a proxy. So there we go. We got CleanSpark having 3% up on the day. Duolingo took a nasty 18% fall. I don't know what the numbers were like on Duolingo. I'm going to pull them up right now, but that was actually kind of concerning but also they were up like 40% year to date. Like Duolingo stock year to date is still up 14%. Yeah. So they were up around 35%. They got hit because of this earnings, but I was expecting the growth to be really good. Maybe the growth just didn't come in as well as the street wanted it to be, and that's why that one went down. And then we got Airbnb and Uber. We'll talk about all those in a bit. So we got the market open in 30 seconds. I was looking at a bunch of these earnings last night. After we get through the market open, we'll look at some of these companies. And then Kris, hop on in like 5-6 minutes, and then we'll get Chris's thoughts on everything going on in the world of the markets as well. Roblox as well. Yeah, I'm going to pull up their numbers. I don't know what the hell happened to Roblox. That is pretty tough, dude. Down 27%. Like the market, that's what I'm saying. The fact that Robinhood's even kind of green, it's like if the market's tanking Shopify 20%, Disney 10%, Roblox 30%, Duolingo 18%, you know, at least Robinhood's getting some momentum in a very red market. All right, 9:30, Thursday, May 9th. Thank you, everybody, for being here. The stock market is now open. All right, we got some green candles on Mr. Robinhood. 1936 up 8.3% of the day. 1944. Robinhood is indeed green. Robinhood's green. Let's see if it can continue being green. $19. Even if we form 19 as a base, dude, I would be happy. Like just stay at 19 for a while until the next quarter. I wouldn't mind that. So let's see if that can happen. Wow, my portfolio just went up $27,000. That's a lot of money. And if Robinhood goes back to 17, it will go back down $27,000. So let's see, Robinhood. Come on, baby. Let's see if we can stay at 19 Dolores. Look at Kris. This is where I cover my ears. Stupid cowbell. Kris is about to be on the show, give all of his thoughts and opinions, and he doesn't even respect the cowbell, dude. Doesn't even respect the cow. That's a blasphemy, Kris. That's an abomination of how you're acting towards the bell. All right, Instacart, they actually had a decent earnings. They're up 2.9%. ARMS down 6%. I think their earnings came in okay, but not the growth the street wanted. They beat on EPS, beat on revenue, but not insane growth. Airbnb down 5%. Not sure about their numbers. I think the guidance was not the best. Have to go back into them, but They are down. Palantir down a little bit as well. Coinbase is up a little bit. Shopify's up 1%. Tesla's flat. S&P. Dude, I don't understand how the S&P is at 517. Like, I feel like this happened in a blink of an eye. Last time I checked, the S&P was 501, and then a couple days before that, it was at 495. Now we're at 517. We're almost at the all-time highs. All-time highs is, I think, 525. So I don't know how that happened, but that happened. HIMS is up 1.73%. I stick by my comments that I said yesterday. I don't know why the HIMS CEO tweeted all that political stuff just to go back on his words and cover it up, because all it did was create volatility for shareholders. And like, if I'm a shareholder, I just don't want that volatility, dude. Like, you can really keep your beliefs to yourself. Like, I'm starting to get to the point where I get older and I'm like, dude, I don't care about what you think. I care about my money. And that doesn't mean what you're saying is not important. But if I'm giving my money to you, just protect my money, dude. Like, especially if you sell dick pills, like if you sell dick pills, your political thoughts are not that important. Uber up 1%, Rivian up about 1%, Celsius up 2%. Nice little recovery from the dip it had a couple days ago. Rocket Lab, 414, that's up about 1% as well. I didn't check their results on earnings, but I think they were okay. Oracle. Oh, by the way, I spoke to this guy who used to work at Oracle at the expo. This is a really dope guy. Shout out to David if you're here in the chat. And I spoke to him, and he left Oracle like a couple years ago, but he was like a really important guy in their food and beverage business. And I was like, so how big is this Oracle Palantir partnership? And he was like, dude, when I worked at Oracle, we didn't do those types of partnerships. Like, for 4 years, we never let a company like Palantir have access to the data and the confidentiality and all this stuff and build infrastructure with them. So to him, he was just like, this is like the biggest thing that no one's talking about. And he's like, I think it will help grow the business. I can't guarantee that, but it's like, if they're working with Palantir, they obviously see something very special in their technology. So nice little good confirmation bias from someone who worked at Oracle, can be kind of objective about this because he knows how hard it is for Oracle to actually work with a third-party vendor. NEO up 2% of the day. Bitcoin 61,276. Apple. Oh, the iPads. Wow. The iPads. We didn't even talk about the iPads. So the iPads are like, no one gives a fuck about the iPads, apparently. Like, dude, did you guys see the commercial? I'm not going to play it because then Apple's going to fucking ban the stream or whatever. The commercial was the worst commercial I've ever seen for the iPad. They like took a bunch of like art supplies under like a compressor and they crushed them. And then when they opened it up, it was like the iPad, and their whole theme was like, look how thin it is. And like, dude, I don't even blame Apple because I know they can't innovate that much more anymore. I don't blame them for the lack of innovation. It's very hard, but like, to make a big deal that it's thin, I don't know, dude. I don't know if that's like the biggest deal in the world. So, you know, it is what it is. I don't think the market cares. The stock is relatively flat. I think their chips for AI data centers is super exciting. I don't think the iPads makes me want to go out and buy Apple. So Robinhood right now, 1926. We'll talk a little bit more about Apple in a bit, but that's what we got going on right there. And Robinhood still maintaining 19, and it deserves to. I think it deserves to as well. Robinhood deserves to maintain this. Dude, the numbers were insanity. 41% of Coinbase's entire Q1 volume in one of crypto trading volumes for consumers in 1 month, 11 billion in deposits, 40% year-over-year growth. I mean, you just look at some of these numbers and it's just like, wow, dude, if they can replicate this the next quarter, 260,000 gold subscribers. I didn't think they would get that. I thought they would get to maybe like 200. Absolutely insane numbers. Snowflake right here up a little bit. Celsius back to $80. Celsius dip is getting bought on Celsius up 4%. Not bad at all. Alibaba, wasn't this thing at like 85 the other day? Has this fallen down? Yeah, it was at 82. All right, peaked at 82. So it fell down a little bit, but Alibaba having a little bit of a resurgence as China's opening up a bit more. Wingstop is up about 1%. Domino's is up a little bit. Oh, let's look at the Mag 7. Where's NVIDIA? Where's NVIDIA? NVIDIA, wow, 904. NVIDIA's at 900. Tesla's down a little bit. Amazon 189. Amazon back to all-time highs. Google 171. Meta 470. Look at Meta quietly going from 414 back to 470. This was almost where it was at right before earnings. So Meta's just making a nice recovery. I think the dip on Meta is easy to buy. I don't have that much money, so I didn't buy the Meta dip. But like, I think Meta at 420, 430 is. They got punished because they spent more money on AI, but AI is what fuels their business. So I don't think it made a lot of sense, but that's how the market gives you these irrational opportunities. Microsoft at 410 and then Apple here at 182 on the day as well. So that's what we got in the Mag 7. Let's go to crypto world. Bitcoin. Oh, by the way, Grayscale had a neutral day yesterday, so not that much selling from Grayscale. So that's positive news for Bitcoin. And so we're still maintaining 60,000. We're not back at the 56 level, which is good. And I think over the next coming months, that should continue to get better. CleanSpark at 1664. Coinbase is down at 210. MicroStrategy down about 0.75%. Marathon 1989. Bitfarms 1.8, and then we got Robinhood here at 19.22, still here on the day. All right, folks, we got a special guest joining the channel. He has been part of this community and my life for about 4 years now, but he disrespects the cowbell. And that's the one thing I can't stand about this guy. I love this guy, but he doesn't respect the cowbell. And maybe one day he will have some respect for the cowbell. Ladies and gentlemen, Kris Patel.
Goddamn hate that cowbell, dude.
Dude, it's so funny. You've hated this for literally 3 years, and I've not stopped. It's just like every time reaction.
I forgot to grab it when we were in Vegas because I was like, bro, I'm gonna toss that shit into the Bellagio fountains, you know?
Love it.
Whatever.
Love it.
Next time I get a chance, I'm grabbing that stupid thing. At least give me like a week of peace before Amazon fucking does a Prime delivery.
You'll have a day of peace. Okay, for those that have questions in the chat, let us know and put them here. I think we can be on for like 30 minutes if you have time, and then I got to get out of here and drive, do a 4-hour drive to New Jersey. So any questions, let us know in the chat. I think, Kris, let's start with this. What are you thinking about? Well, Robinhood, what did you think about their earnings? Let's start with that.
I thought they were great earnings. I mean, the future prospects of Robinhood are good. The only thing, and this is something that I kind of mentioned to Garcia on Twitter, they had huge growth in volumes for crypto. Now, that crypto volume growth could be the result of the Bitcoin halving thing that everyone keeps talking about, right? So you just have to be careful. And so when you do your models, you don't get too excited over one quarter's big jump in one thing. Now,
100% agreed. 100% agreed.
The good thing is Robinhood is trying to become less cyclical because one of the things that they're doing is implementing more businesses on top of their core product. So the credit card and all those things are going to generate fees. I'm glad that you had what's his name from Dumb Money on yesterday, who explained that the credit card deal is very value accretive to Robinhood shareholders because it's using its notoriety as a financial pretty much conduit to basically gain value without having to really take on any risk, because the risk is being taken by the banks who issue the credit card. They're not really taking that on. All they're getting is revenue from that. So what happens is, as time goes on, Robinhood is going to be able to kind of extract value over time and become less cyclical. Right now, the problem is when you have a business that's heavily dependent on just one form of trading, that could be really bad. So right now, Coinbase could have a really great quarter because crypto volumes just went through the roof. And then if crypto volumes come down to normal again, that may, mean that have a couple of weak quarters. Robinhood is saying, look, we are just going to have such a diversified business that we're going to have revenue coming in from all different directions, and so they're going to build their business model that way, which is good. So I think the leadership over at Robinhood are doing what they're supposed to be doing, figuring out ways to generate shareholder value over a long time, take out as much cyclicality from the business as possible so that this way you have like a nice up and to the right revenue curve instead of what they've dealt with in the past, which was you had these meme frenzy mania mode where everyone was buying shit, cyclicality kicks in and things just drop down in terms of volume. And then they end up dropping down like, what is it, to $6, $7? And then all of a sudden now interest in crypto grows and then revenues go back up. That cyclicality is not good for people for a business. So I'd say they're making the right moves by introducing more less cyclical parts of the business so that this way their revenue can be a little bit more, up and to the right.
So thanks, Kris. You made Robin a tank as you were talking, so appreciate it. No, that was good. It was good. Okay, so I want to get your thoughts on two stocks, and then I want to do macro. So quickly on two stocks. First, Celsius. Why is this thing recovering here today?
So, during the earnings call, they actually clarified one of the things that was very interesting, which was the reason why they missed on revenue. They have such a big partnership with Pepsi that Pepsi is going through its own restocking and optimization schedule that the company is applying on its own. So basically, there are times where Pepsi will load the boat on Celsius products and then they'll distribute them. And then there are times where they're just like, look, we are going to let the inventory burn down right? Where basically they ordered a whole bunch last time, they didn't order as much this time, and so they're just letting the stock kind of, come down a little bit, and that's fine. That's just how things are. I was explaining to you yesterday, the worst thing a business can do is sit on a bunch of dead stock. So you don't just go to your supplier and say, let me get 5 billion, cans of Celsius. And so now 1 year, you're going to have 100% growth, 200% growth, crazy amounts of growth. And then the next year, you're basically sitting on a whole bunch of inventory, right? And then what happens is you order not so much the next year. Now you cause the company, your outside company, to basically get absolutely destroyed. So right now, they're still figuring out, like Pepsi is working on getting a normalized inventory cycle going. But if you look at the data, that was a little bit more like out of the realm data that, like in terms of revenue, sale at the stores themselves are growing. That level data is something that, like, guys like Dumb Money, what's his name from Dumb Money, was explains that they can actually,
Chris Camille.
I think it was Chris Camille. I don't know what the guys' names are. But basically they actually get data from like the third-party sources. They pay for it. And in that data, it actually shows that, hey, there's actually people at the front level buying a ton of Celsius. So that's a good thing. The other thing is the number of endpoints is growing for Celsius as well. So I think some of this is just the people realizing that, things are dipping and they bought. Me personally, I am a little bit more hesitant on trying to add a whole bunch of Celsius right now because the valuation is still pretty stretched, and we could still see some more material, downsides in terms of revenue misses going forward. Because last year, bro, they had a crazy amount of demand that was pulled forward because of this Pepsi partnership. So it's just going to be a really tough comp year going forward.
Price target for Celsius?
$100. I never shied away from that. $100 by 2026 is the model that I'm getting. So,
okay.
If you're okay with a 20% return in a year and a half, that's fine. Buy some Celsius. I think that this is the same thing I'll say about Palantir as well. There are just times where the company's stock goes beyond what the current market value should be. And sometimes it's a good idea to wait. Sometimes it's not. It all just depends on what you're trying to do. If you don't want to try to time bottoms and tops and all that good stuff, you can just dollar cost average. No shame in that.
Yeah.
Me, I'm more active. So I want to make sure that I'm buying at a good price. And I also do options. So how my option strategies work, where I'm a lot more tactical, like right now I have a iron condor on Celsius right now, but I also have leap spreads on Celsius that are just printing me like all sorts of money. So,
Okay, so I want to get your thoughts on HIMS. You loaded up on calls before earnings, and then you can kind of segue on how you feel about the CEO being political about Israel-Palestine on this.
I mean, dude, I saw nothing but good numbers on that earnings call, man. So I didn't see.
Why'd you buy in right before the earnings? I mean, you bought like hours before earnings, right?
So I understood what the CEO was trying to do. So this is something that in chess that people do. It's called a gambit, right? Where what you're doing essentially is you're taking some short-term pain for some long-term gain. Now, by him coming, so whenever you see these announcements by these CEOs or whatever, you have to ask yourself, what is the cost-benefit analysis that went through their head in order for this message to come out? I don't think you become a CEO of a company if you don't realize those parts of how you manage things. So I think for him, he said, look, I have a really broad audience right now here in the United States, but I want to get more people. Now, if you look at this current Gaza, and I'm gonna try to be apolitical here. If you look at the Gaza and Israel situation right now, there are two camps. You've got the Israel camp and you've got the Muslim camp, basically. Because the Muslims, there are probably Muslims who are for Israel, but not as many as I would say that are against Israel. So by him coming out and saying that, he's number one going to attract a lot of attention to HIMS. Like if you saw the amount of downloads, they went from like 16 to like the number 4 or 5 app that was downloaded, right? So he took a calculated bet and saying, look, if I want to get people attracted to this core product, I am gonna have to like weigh in on something. So
I didn't think about that. You thought this was a little bit more marketing than just him.
Oh, dude, definitely, dude. We're talking about hymns. Like, if he didn't say anything, would we even be talking about hymns? To be honest,
dude, that's a good point. I really thought this guy just like cares about politics. I didn't think he was.
Now, put that into context. His wife is Jewish. There you go. So now he's got cover saying, "Look, I'm not anti-Semitic. I'm just trying to be for the people." Now, all the people on the other side are like, we need to support hymns because this guy stands with us. So I'm sure that there are people that are going to cancel their subscriptions. Do not get that wrong. There are probably people that are offended by this. They're going to cancel. But my thinking is this guy is probably going to attract a shit ton more people and more interest into his company on the other end. And what's funny is that when you look on Twitter, there were a shit ton of people buying stock, like Muslims buying stock because in solidarity. So I will say this, most people, 6 months from now, no one is even going to remember this bullshit. No one. Like, no one's even remember the CEO said this.
Yeah.
But you know what people will remember? Their subscriptions that are going to be coming in the mail, because now you just attracted a whole user base to your platform and to your thing. So I think it was a calculated move on this guy, by this guy. I mean, he's the CEO for a reason. And, what do you do? Just apologize later. And so, some people just already forgave him. I'm telling you.
This is why I like your analysis. You're a little bit older than me, so you're a bit more skeptical of intentions. And I generally thought this guy just wants to like voice his opinion, but you're like, nah, dude. I mean, you might be wrong, you might be right, but it's interesting.
I'll tell you you know how we'll know? Next quarter, when you see the numbers come out, and the quarter after that, you're gonna see like, hey, what was the impact of those comments? Did all these people buy a shit ton of him stuff? Did their member growth absolutely explode? Because here's a question. If your app in Google Play Store and on Apple App Store goes up by so much, people are not downloading the app to cancel your subscription, right? They're downloading it so that they can become subscribers.
And the other thing that's interesting here is that there are so many companies that are kind of pro-Israel, like McDonald's, Starbucks, etc. This is one of the companies I've seen that's actually at least taking a stance with the protesters philosophically. And that potentially could make them stand out as like one of the only companies that gets all the media coverage because they're quote unquote pro-Palestine. So I agree. Either it's a mistake by him and it was like just whatever, or he's actually paying chess, and we'll find out in the numbers. It's a very interesting perspective.
Well, here's something that I pulled on Twitter just because I was curious. So right now, I don't know if you know this, but the total amount of Jews in the world is only about 15 million Jews. Okay. Total amount of Muslims in the world, 1.9 billion. Okay. If you take, let's say, the Starbucks impact and you analyze it, you can see that Starbucks has probably way more Muslims because it's such a broad base that a boycott is actually going to be pretty effective, right? Against Starbucks. So it's actually going to have a material impact. Hims, on the other hand, by disillusioning some of its Jewish population, but gaining a crap ton of more Muslim population, just think about that. Look at the disparity in the total numbers, right? So this is where I just have to say, I'm telling you, this guy played a gambit. And a lot of people thought, hey, you know what? This guy's dumb. He's just, doing this to voice an opinion. No. He's got cover, bro. He's got a Jewish wife. He's got cover. He's got cover.
It is an interesting perspective. I did not think of it from that angle. Okay, markets. So markets kind of tanking a little bit. And guys, I see your comments are like every stock is falling. It's so, Kris, how do it make sense of this to me? S&P is green right now, barely, but it's green. But you got a ton of stocks that are down. I mean, if you look across the board, it's just a lot of red. What is your take on the macro right now? How are you thinking of inflation, and where do things go? Where do things go over the next few months?
I think it's a lot of sideways actions, to be honest with you. Just, the market's taking a bit of a breather. I mean, you know what they say, right? Sell in May, go away, and you just come back in October. Typically equities and stocks, they underperform from May all the way to October. You know, a lot of managers are going to go do their thing. There's also a lot of uncertainty in this current environment. So, you know, a lot of people are just you really, really have to be doing amazing in order to get people to buy up your stock. Right now, I think just a lot of people they've gotten, first of all, look at the amount of gains that people have had. Go past the 10-year. Do the S&P since October. We've had a nice run since October. There's going to be some profit taking there. There's going to be people that are just like, look, I want to take, you know, the market needs a little bit of a break. There's 5 reasons, and I posted it on X why. Let me just bring that up real quick.
Yeah, S&P right here up 20% in the past 6 months. Not easy to do that.
Yeah.
And so there are a lot of gains that are in the market, dude. There's a lot of people sitting on gains.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, it's natural to kind of take a little bit of a breather. So let me just show you the 5 reasons. 1 second, 5 reasons.
The reason Robin is dropping, guys, is because I think every stock is just dropping. I mean, I don't think there's any logic to it. A lot of it is just, as Kris says, the market's taking a bit of a breather. But again, if we dip to 16.15, dude, I think it's the easiest dip buy in the market. The question is, do we actually get that low in these numbers?
Give me 1 second to just bring this up. Okay, here we go. So share the screen. Okay, there we go. So these are the 5 reasons I think right now is a very I wouldn't say challenge. You know, challenging is the right word. Challenging time for a lot of the market to get really bid up. So number 1, there's a lot of uncertainty around inflation, and rate cutting projections are always being adjusted. On one hand, you've got the 10-year waffling up. Everyone's like, oh my God, you know, higher for longer. And then all of a sudden you get jobs data saying, oh, the economy is weakening. Boom, things come down again. And then another week, Jay Powell comes out and says, hey,
hold on, Kris,
listen.
real quick. We got some, maybe this is what the market is saying. I want to get your live reaction to this. Jobless claims. So 231,000 people claimed unemployment last week, the highest since August 2023, and above expectations of 210,000. What do you think about that?
That's what I'm saying, man. It's just, this is what's happening. On one hand, you've got, and this, unfortunately, this is what stagflation looks like. When you have high unemployment and high inflation at the same time, it's not good. It's not good. Usually one would be a counterbalance to the other, you know, but so technically, and this is something I spoke about a little while ago, the Federal Reserve has a dual mandate. Mandate number 1, control inflation, right? But number 2 is unemployment. Make sure that we have full employment. The thing is, everything that the Fed has done up until now has been counter to the full employment narrative. So basically, they are actually willing to sacrifice a couple of points of unemployment. I mean, they can sustain probably 4.2 to maybe 4.5% unemployment without really like feeling like the negative impacts in the economy. So this is normal. Like this is the effect of having rates stay this long for this long period of time. So I'd say the Fed is probably internally, they're high-fiving each other like, yeah, look, the unemployment rate went up. Woo! That means that, you know, we're doing what we're supposed to do. So unfortunately, that's one of the realities that we just have to live by. So,
okay. So in regards to inflation, do you think Tom Lee's going to be right, and we're going to get 2.7 or something on the next couple CPIs, like in the next 4 or 5 months?
Absolutely.
Why?
The major drivers of inflation recently, the lagging ones. I mean, he explained it very well. He was very poignant about it. The lagging parts of the inflation narrative are starting to show weakness, and they're starting to come down. Shelter is the main one I'm looking at, but also auto insurance and things like that. When you normalize that out, things will look better. The other thing is, like last year, oil prices were climbing like crazy. This year, they're actually somewhat muted at $80. Oil is the only thing that, in my opinion, is like the X factor, and you can't really control a lot of oil, you know. But I think oil, for the most part, is going to stay in the $80 range. So if you just take that into consideration, that means that year over year, it's going to be pretty flat. When you combine that with a slowing GDP, because I mean, last quarter we had one of the slowest GDP numbers in a while. That also means that we're getting into a deflationary, well, not deflation, disinflationary period. So shelter, in my opinion, is going to roll over in the next 6 to 12 months. Same thing with a lot of the other things. The biggest thing now is services, and hoping that services can come down a little bit. But just one thing I want to bring up very quickly, in the quest to rid ourselves of inflation, the Fed, if they don't play it right, may actually cause a recession.
How?
Well, when you keep rates this high, you're going to start breaking things. They broke the housing market. You think about the prices of homes right now, they're just absolutely wild. And then you also have on top of it high interest rates. So high interest rates combined with high home prices means you cause an affordability crisis. Now, why did you cause an affordability crisis? Well, you lowered rates down way too much during the pandemic to the point where now everyone is sitting on a below 3 mortgage. So no one's willing to give that shit up, Right. So I think the overreaction during COVID, we're kind of like paying for that hangover right now. So, we'll see.
It's going to be really interesting, dude. And I think you're right. Inflation will come down, but there is that risk that, if the Fed keeps it this high for this long, they're going to induce something in the quest to actually get it down. Apple, these iPads, give me your thoughts on those.
I thought that commercial was so fucking stupid, man.
Why did everyone think the commercial was bad? Because I thought it was bad, but
okay, so what they essentially did was, if you saw it, they were just crushing like musical instruments, cameras, what is that thing called, like paints, and that. People take pride in the tools of their trade in order to basically, especially artists take a lot of pride in tools of their trade. So when you basically are just like destroying it and saying, we're going to replace it with this monolithic little thing, it kind of pisses you off. Be like, no, I want to fucking play like the clarinet. I don't want to fucking, click 2 times to make a sound on an iPad. And by the way, the thinnest iPad ever. And I'm like, you mean you went from this to this? Like, really? So it's fucking ridiculous. And the minute you put on a cover, it becomes fat again. So it's not dude. I'd rather them say, oh, we have a 3-day battery on this bitch. Like, yeah, okay, I'll take that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, granted, the internal technology is probably the selling point, but they didn't highlight that part. They highlighted the thinness, which is probably at this point a weakness. Like, I don't want to hold something thin and flimsy.
You can like almost break it in half or something. It feels.
Yeah. Like I'd rather them say, look, we have like the fastest, like you could replace your computer with this. Like that's what you kind of like would lead. But then again, I don't know why. Maybe I'm not a fucking marketing guy, so I don't understand this logic.
What did you think of Buffett trimming 13% of his Apple and having almost $200 billion in cash?
I don't know, bro. Buffett sees something. I will say this though. His lecture on taxes, dude, is such a fucking hypocrite. Such a hypocrite.
Oh, what he said about we sold Apple to pay for taxes because we like America and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, but you're half of your fucking portfolio is invested in a company that is a tax cheat. Like everyone knows Apple is a tax cheat using the double Irish method. So you're on the board, Buffett, you own so much. Why don't you go to Tim Cook and say, hey, Tim, listen, I know profits matter, but America comes first. Why don't you bring all that money home and pay your taxes? Go ahead. Did Buffett do that? No. He just wants to basically say, oh, everyone else should be paying more tax. I mean, the motherfucker's going to die before he has to pay any of the taxes. So he doesn't give a fuck. I'm sure if you asked 30-year-old Warren Buffett, the dude would be complete opposite, saying, fuck America. I need to keep my tax status low.
Yeah, dude, the older I get, the more I realize no one gives a fuck about anything other than their money. It's like, and they're gonna pay their taxes, but just not as much.
Buffett ain't gonna pay no taxes. There's no taxes in heaven, bro. Buffett doesn't give a fuck.
Okay, so we got Kris. A lot of people are asking in the chat, and I feel like I've answered this question, but maybe it's better from your perspective. Robinhood's like not soaring 30%. For the people that are like, "What the hell's going on?" Those numbers were phenomenal. What would be your explanation for why this thing is just like held down?
I don't know, man. It's the general market. Look at Duolingo, bro. Duolingo's
Yo, what happened to those guys, bro?
I don't know, man. Duolingo had a freaking amazing quarter. I mean, I got to talk to Sam Mercier about this because Sam is the one that got me into Duolingo in the first place. So I started really researching into them, about their CEO. Dude, by the way, the CEO of Duolingo is a freaking epic dude. Amazing guy. So they had a really, really good quarter. And if they're getting sold off, bro, Robinhood, y'all should consider yourself lucky. You're not in the down 2 digits club right now.
That's what I'm saying, bro. I agree. Like, look at this number, dude. 54% increased paid subscribers, 40% year-over-year growth, 45% year-over-year growth. Net income, they're profitable compared to not being profitable last quarter or the year before. Why are they down? I mean, guidance, I guess, but like, I don't.
Dude, you can't even figure it out. I'm telling you. Look at that. I don't know. I'll talk to Sam about it. See what he thinks. I think he's got more insight into Duolingo because he actually like researches the shit out of this company.
Wait, hold on, no. Guidance is higher. They did how much money did they did? Oh no,
they raised guidance. I'm telling you, there's no reason. This shit
yes,
should
look,
be
dude.
down.
Total revenue is 167. Guidance for Q2, 177. These motherfuckers raised it.
Yeah. This makes no sense. This makes no sense, dude. Whatever. I don't know. Sometimes the expectations can be wilder than what the market has actually justifying. Because I know some people I was talking to about Celsius, they're like, yeah, Celsius is going to grow 75% year over year. I'm like, good luck with that, buddy. Yeah. You know, it's not easy to replicate that kind of, upward movements. I don't know. It's just one of those things, man. The market has a way of over expecting. So the way that I would best tell people to play earnings is not to actually look at earnings as much. And I think your guest yesterday said the same thing, that he actually listens to the earnings calls, not necessarily for the numbers, but for the clues and insights into what's happening in the future, right? Because at this point, the earnings are not like, no one even trades off of beats anymore. Everyone's just talking about fucking guidance, or at least maybe that's just this time. Like, look at what happened with Elon. Tesla had a garbage quarter, but Elon was able to bamboozle his way into getting people to think that FSD was going to get released by the summer. And now everyone's like, buy Tesla, So it is what it is.
Someone says, when is Palantir announcing the direct to AAP consumer product? Go to Daily Palantir on the Twitter account that I have, and you'll see the link there. It's not a literal consumer product, but anyone can sign up for it. So consumers have access to it. It's more of a developer AIP account that people can sign up. Okay, so you think inflation's coming down. You think shelter is going to have the most disinflation. Oil should be coming down as well, and that should be good for markets. Do you think there's a chance that we have a recession before we have a rate cut?
I mean, the recession is still not 100% on the table, But I will say this. Usually rate cuts happen alongside recession. You're supposed to do the opposite. You're supposed to actually buy stuff when rates are going higher, technically speaking, and you're supposed to sell when rates are going lower. Why? It's a bit weird, but the reason why you're cutting is because the economy is doing shitty. And the reason why you're raising is because the economy is doing well, right? You're kind of trying to slow things down. So it's kind of like a car, man. Like, when someone like really steps on the brakes, you best know that there's probably an accident coming, right? Versus if they're stepping on the accelerator, that means that there's nothing ahead. They just, like right now, they just need to get away from what's about to hit us, So I don't know. I'm in the boat right now that we're probably should just be data dependent. Just wait, man. There's really not much to do.
You think NVIDIA crushes in a couple weeks?
Absolutely, dude. Every single one of the damn cloud providers, they came and said, we're doubling down. We're buying more AI chips. I mean, the thing is, the market is very simple right now. This is the value stream. ASML builds the machines. ASML sells those machines to Taiwan Semiconductor. NVIDIA develops the chips, sends the designs to TSMC, and just basically gets paid. And then all those GPUs, they get sold to the cloud providers, and the cloud providers take all that shit and then repackage it and sell it to companies to basically utilize these AI functions, right? So all 4 of those companies in the value chain are going to be making money hand over fist with this AI growth thing. By the way, I think I froze. Whatever. I don't know. Let me just adjust my thing. There we go.
This is a nice pose, dude. All right, there you go.
Yeah. So, like I said, NVIDIA has the only GPU chips that actually work for AI and all the other stuff. And they also have the software background. But I will say this, NVIDIA has really, really close ties to Snowflake. Snowflake next month is
they're doing some stupid. Dude, they did this conference a year ago. Nothing fucking happened.
Jensen is gonna be there with the new CEO.
Do you think that matters if Jensen is on a stage with the CEO? Does that make it special? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, bro. If the Godfather's shaking your hand, you best believe.
All right, so if Jensen was on stage with Alex Karp, then you would be buying Palantir.
I don't know. I'd have to see. I'm just saying, if you see, look, if the hottest girl in the room is talking to some guy, bro, you got to find out who's that guy,
So that's what it's going to take. Jensen has to shake Karp's hand, and you're like, all right, fuck it. We'll buy some pounds. That's why I think the argument doesn't make sense. Everyone's I saw people on Twitter getting so excited about it.
About what? About
Jensen and the Snowflake dude.
Bro, Jensen is kingmaker right now. Okay, whoever like Jensen puts his arm, like all he has to do, take his hand and put it on their shoulder. That person is who you bet on. That's how it works right now. NVIDIA is the kingmaker in the AI space, and they're right now putting their hands on NVIDIA. I mean, on Snowflake's shoulders. So there you go.
That's hilarious, bro.
Yeah.
All right. I got to end it out. I have to go do a 4-hour drive to Arnie. Arnie, come say hi. I got to be me and Arnie going to Jersey. Are you ready to see New Jersey?
Yo,
Arnie. Man, you know what? I wish I knew about this sooner. We could have gone to Vegas together, man. We should have done our Vegas trip.
My fault, Dan.
That's all right. It's all right, man. It's all good. You got to come back next year then,
I will. So
I'll teach you how to play craps. Garcia learned, and then Garcia lost all his money. But that's because he deviated from my strategy. Had he not deviated, he was up. He was making a crap ton of money too.
So where I'm taking you to New York on, I think, Friday. What are you excited about to see? Because New York is like New York. It's like, are you excited for New York? And are you like ready to see the greatest city in the world?
I'm excited to see actually all of it. But I mean, also the different parts of the, can I call it city?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to Albany. That's for sure. We're not going to fucking Buffalo. What about like the Empire State Building? Are you excited for that?
Well, that is just a big building.
It's true. It really is just a big fucking building.
But I think
Arnie, my advice to you,
the vibe there.
Yeah. My advice to you: don't look like a soft target. If you look like a soft target, people will target you. They'll
What do you mean with
every day.
soft target?
So number one, don't say good morning to anyone. New Yorkers, we don't say good morning to anyone. The minute you say good morning to someone, they're gonna be like, "Oh, this guy's a fucking out of towner."
What's wrong with good morning? They just go straight.
Don't do it. Yeah, you're gonna see people
tend to be mean.
So at worst, or at best, you look at people in the eye and you say,
you don't look them in the eye.
Oh,
you don't
neither. Okay, I just go straight.
You do your business. They do their business. Don't look them in the eye. They won't look you in the eye.
I will not look at anyone in the eyes.
And if someone is staring at you, don't stare back because it's weird.
What food should we go get, Kris?
Y'all, okay, so you could always do all the traditional New York stuff, but you should go to 125th and go to Haji's and get a chopped cheese. Okay, because all these other people, they'll tell you like, oh, New York, get a Peter Luger steak, go to Cat's Deli and you could go to Cat's Deli and get a pastrami sandwich, which is like traditional. But if you want like the grimy New York experience that only New Yorkers know about, go to Haji's and get yourself chopped cheese. Do you know what chopped cheese is?
No.
Okay, so Amit, do you know what a chopped cheese is?
I know.
So you got to get chopped cheese, and then you got to get chicken and rice on 53rd and 6th. I mean, I don't know. That's not really a big thing anymore. Mamoons is another thing. Like,
seems light. Come on.
Yeah.
Yesterday I had the experience of my first American pizza.
Really?
That wasn't real, dude. The DC pizza was disgusting. No, we're gonna get you real New York pizza.
Yeah.
Like,
one thing I learned by looking at pictures from X is that each state has its own kind of pizza.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious to experiment different places.
Grimaldi. If you want a good pizza, go to Grimaldi's. You'll like that. You know.
all right.
Yep.
All right, Kris. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for being here. This was a super exciting week, and appreciate you guys following along the journey. And 6 p.m. or 6:30, we'll have a special guest on to break down Robinhood earnings today, and then market open again tomorrow. Also, Finance Junkies at 9 p.m. We have that today.
Yep. See you then. Later, guys.
Bye, everyone. Have a good one. Good night, guys.
It arrived.
Bye, guys.